Anderson wins it in overtime.
Brady can shot, breakaway shoots, scores!
Welcome to Sens Talk. My name is Brandon, and I am your host. With the rookie tournament just over a month away, the Sens have yet to sign two notable RFAs. I'm sure you know who they are, but if you don't, they are Shane Pinto and friend of the show, Igor Sokolov. Now, while Sokolov not being signed yet is a bit surprising, it's not expected his NHL cap hit will be over the league minimum of $750,000. He also is not guaranteed a spot in the lineup this year in the National Hockey League, so there's no real impact to the NHL roster with Sokolov yet to be signed. And there's no doubt about it, I expect him to be signed rather shortly. But with Shane Pinto, there absolutely is roster implications. The rookie centerman had a breakout season last year, and the Sens desperately need him to fill out that third-line center role. So what's the holdup? Let's talk about it. Now, before discussing what Shane Pinto's next contract might look like, it helps to know what he did last year to understand why he's going to make what he makes in his next contract extension. So last year, Shane Pinto played 82 games, all the games last year for your Ottawa Senators, and through a year where Ottawa had a lot of injury troubles, Shane Pinto was one of the only consistent players in that lineup. And because of that, it paid off for him big time. He was a 20-goal scorer. He scored 20 goals, adding in 15 assists for 35 total points. But most impressive, though, was his underlying numbers. Firstly, he roughly averaged 16 minutes a night as a rookie in the National Hockey League in the top 6. And while being in the top 6 as a centerman, and as you know, if you're a centerman, you have to control middle of the ice. You're that leader on that forward unit. He had a 52% face-off percentage, which is very much so above league average. And keep in mind, once again, Shane Pinto was facing off against some of the toughest centers in the game, while primarily playing top 6 minutes. In the Atlantic Division, you got to go against Austin Matthews, Barkov, Stamkos, Bergeron. There's so many, I can't even list them all. Shane Pinto had to go against them night after night after night. There's other players, of course, like Sidney Crosby a good amount of the time. Shane Pinto never looked out of place. Defensively, he's a solid two-way center, and offensively, he can score. 20 goals last year as a rookie is not something to scoff at all. So Shane Pinto, no doubt, has earned a pay raise from what he's making right now, which is, an entry-level contract. But with the Sens cap situation a little complicated now after the Vladimir Tarasenko acquisition, they've got less than $1 million left in cap space. So what happens next? Let's take a look. A player very comparable to Shane Pinto in his situation is Noah Cates out of Philadelphia. He's a left winger. He just scored 38 points last year in the National Hockey League. Very young, prospect, now turned NHLer as well, similar to Shane Pinto. He signed for 2 years at $2.65 million per year. Shane Pinto likely will make a lick more than that. He's a center, scored 20 goals. All that in, combination makes him a little more valuable than a left winger, especially the center part. Like I already mentioned, he's a strong two-way center. Very, very sound defensively, and the offense is only going to get better. He scored 20 goals as a rookie. So he'll likely make between $2.73 million. So once again, this is not about term. This is about making the money work. And once again, Ottawa, as I already alluded to, has just around $800,000 in salary cap available. The Sens desperately have to move out space to bring in Shane Pinto once again. Because look, they're going to have to sign Shane Pinto. That would be a massive hole to fill in that bottom 6. And Ottawa, for the first time in quite some time, has very good depth throughout the lineup, specifically in their top 9. Shane Pinto, as a rookie, a big part of this team's future, no doubt about it, will be brought back. But to make that happen, the Sens are going to have to move out somebody. Because to free up cap space, the Senators will likely have to move one of Matthew Joseph or Eric Brandstrom. Both are ideal candidates to move because, for one, Matthew Joseph makes $2.95 million per year and had a down year last season, albeit, look, he had some injuries, but he did have a down season. Now, look, his role has as well been taken with the acquisition of Dominik Kubalik from Detroit, so he's kind of become expendable as well. Now, I still think that Matthew Joseph is a solid bottom 6 winger in the National Hockey League with still middle 6 potential, and there will definitely be a number of NHL teams around the league who would be interested in acquiring Matthew Joseph, and you likely won't have to attach a premium asset to him as well to offload him. Once again, I think he's a fine player, probably won't have to give up like a second or a top prospect to get rid of that contract. It's not another Nikita Zaitsev situation, but once again, he's become expendable with the acquisition of Dominik Kubalik, and of course with some of the prospects knocking on the door like Yarventi and Sokolov and Cruikshank, and the list goes on. So for Matthew Joseph, he's kind of lost his role here. Injuries didn't help him, I'm sure, of course. But he still has NHL potential. He's definitely a bottom six guy on a pretty decent contract. Likely will have a bounce back here. This is the kind of guy that teams will like to acquire, and moving him off the books would open up the space required to bring back Shane Pinto. Now, another player, as I just mentioned, that we could potentially move, and I would really be against this one, is Erik Brannstrom, because the Sens have yet to commit to him long term. Bruce Garriock, when he joined our show last year, said that Erik Brannstrom was looking for a multi-year contract extension last offseason.
It would seem to me he's probably looking for multiple years. If you know, and agents have always told me, Brandon, and I have done this for 30 years. Yeah. The agents have always told me that once you work out the term, the dollars and cents, they just kind of, it's a bad way to put it, but they kind of take care of themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that they're probably in a situation now where first thing they got to agree on is term. And I'm sure, as I said to you earlier, I don't think Pierre Dorion is in a mode where he wants to tie up a guy like Brannstrom for 7 years, or I don't by any stretch of my imagination think that Brannstrom is looking for that kind of term. Okay. But I don't know if he's looking for a 3 or 4 year deal. I think Dorion may be sitting there, well, why don't we just do a 2 year and see where it goes from there?
The Senators said no to that and signed him last year for 1 year. They did that again this offseason, signing him for 1 year at $2 million. Management clearly has been unwilling to commit to Brannstrom long term. With his young age and defensive prowess, teams will be eager to acquire him if made available. Once again, though, I don't want this to happen. Unlike Joseph, Brannstrom is not expendable. The Ottawa Senators have a very solid defensive core for the future with, of course, Chychrun and Chabot and Zub and Sanderson as a solid top 4, with Clevin coming in the wings. But who's going to fill out that 6th spot there? Will it be a JBD, a Lassie Thompson, Erik Brannstrom? Who knows? And once again, maybe Tyler Clevin doesn't work out. I think he's going to be great. Nothing shows that that's going to happen, but maybe he doesn't work out. So if he doesn't work out, great. You have Erik Brannstrom who can step in right away. So the point is very simple. Joseph is expendable with the great amount of forwards we have right now and coming up in the future. Erik Brannstrom, not so much, because after Tyler Clevin, JBD is fine defensively, and Lassie Thompson, who's shown some weaknesses defensively last year through some injury, has in my opinion, a solid two-way game. Erik Brannstrom really is that only safe haven to fill out that top 6. And once again, at a young age, at a cheap rate, somebody that's committed to stay here long term, and it wouldn't cost a lot. Erik Brannstrom is the type of guy that you like to keep around long term. And once again, Pierre Dorion traded Mark Stone for this guy, and with him on the hot seat, maybe he doesn't want to trade the centerpiece of the deal that involved one of the best players in franchise history being shipped out basically for nothing. So for a guy on the hot seat, maybe that wouldn't be the best look as well. Once again, maybe I'm reading into that a little too much. But I purely list Erik Brannstrom on this list, not because he's expendable, but because, once again, the Sens have yet to want to commit to him long term, which makes him, in my opinion, a player Ottawa can see moving. I mean, if they trade him, you still have Travis Hamonic, you have JBD, so they would be fine, but Joseph, absolutely more expendable, and he's still a player that they can get a decent return for, no doubt about it. So I'd expect in the next 30 or so days, we will see a roster player move out to make room for Shane Pinto and his projected contract extension. We'll see what happens. I'm really intrigued to see what ends up happening here in the next month or so. With the Sokolov signing, of course, I'm still wondering what the holdup on that is as well. There's no doubt about it. He will be signed by Ottawa. I have no concern surrounding that contract whatsoever. Igor Sokolov will be back for sure. But for Shane Pinto, yeah, this is really interesting, and I think there's going to have to be, of course, a lateral move made to bring him back. So what do you think about the situation? Do you think there's more to it, or is it just a simple fact of cap space issues? Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. As always, thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Go Sens, go.